on high view. This is for all the marbles, Merlin. Hit us with some sweet, sweet introductions.
All right, welcome to the fifth and final game here between 3DB and VortiX. Whoever wins this game will be making it through to the semi-finals of the Elite Classic. VortiX spawns in on the northern side of the map, playing in the color blue as the French. Tim, what's B playing as?
3DB on high view, again on match point, along with his opponent playing as the Ro6. Got a nice little hunting cabin at the start with 4 villagers on it, building that one just to make sure you get that scout a little bit quicker for the Ro6 instead of preserving that villager count. You know, I mean, when you're talking about the French in Dark Age, although it does scale for Ro6, it takes 20 seconds for a villager to come out. For French in Dark Age, it's 18. Right, so you're as soon as Dark Age becomes Feudal Age, you're going to be at a 1 or 2 villager deficit. So you want to make sure when you're playing against the French, you put 4 villagers over to that hunting cabin. You get the scouts out there, preserve your villager count.
Exactly. And B, he's opening up now with that 3rd scout. I always love this build. I think it's one of my favorite Ro6 builds, where you just grab 2 scouts from the hunting cabin, save yourself the idle TC time, because we see here B is up a villager compared to VortiX, as he opened up with 2 scouts in the TC. So B already at a nice little advantage there. The important part now is that he has to get tier 2 bounty. It's not, you know, a game ending if he doesn't, but it's kind of important, right?
Yeah, and I agree with, just because I'm looking at chat, I agree with Blade in chat, one of the best players that North America has to offer, saying that B just can't go only knights. And if you watch the mainstream, and most of you people have, you've watched B play against Wham and B going with only knights against Wham going only knights. And that's when you're playing the French at their own game, right? Your Boyar's Fortitude is not good enough compared to the Royal Institute for French. The one thing that makes Ro6 good in a matchup against French is their ability to differentiate their army composition, whereas French has a little bit more rigidity in that regard. So the Ro6, just because of their wood economy, they can do things like get some spearmen. They can call their Kremlin militia. They can do things like get archers if the French go into spearmen as well. So I think they're a little bit more open, a little bit more loosey-goosey with their army composition, whereas VortiX, we're going to see knights because we're seeing French. Now with that Kremlin going up a little bit forward here, going to preserve that deer pack. It's just to make sure that a lot of these resources in this area aren't raidable to a Royal Knight. I like the Kremlin where it is.
Yeah, it's not terrible. It feels a little bit exposed here on the wood line. But if you are VortiX, I think it is going to be a little bit difficult to run in all the way down here, right? Especially with the Kremlin giving such good vision. And something else I love about this from B is because of how far forward it is here, it's going to be able to see through a lot of these stealth forests. So I think I agree with you. This is a good position, but does need to be careful here on the wood line.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the one thing I think with that Kremlin being as far north as it is, you could talk about the Kremlin's area of influence with its lumber camps, but that area of influence spreads to basically another dimension. It's very, very open. So if he does put a lumber camp around that wood line, he will be okay. And one of the things about the Kremlin, too, in this area, I mean, we talk about the militia, but the militia are very good against the French because they have that bonus damage against cavalry, so it could help them in the raidable areas as well. And it looks like B also going for that second town center, going to be putting that mining camp there. I'm sure the French player is going to follow suit, too.
Yeah, going to be going for the second TC now. VortiX, he's about to have his school of cavalry up a little bit later compared to what we usually see here. At least does have enough resources, at least with a drop-off, should have enough for a knight. Sometimes we can see a knight in the queue at the 4-minute mark. So, unfortunately for him, I don't think it's going to be able to deny away any of the stone here, though. It might be a bit of a close one. Obviously, a knight takes a little bit to train. School of Cavalry does reduce that one down by 20%, but I think it's going to be a little bit late, them trying to deny away the stone here. Militia can also be called, as you mentioned. Great unit up against the French.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for the French, as we get into Feudal Age, we talk about this a lot, but actually when you're getting that School of Cavalry up, right? So if he gets that School of Cavalry up at about, you know, the 405, 410 mark, maybe he gets to that stone in time. might be a little bit closer than it is now. But that Royal Knight hitting the battlefield over there to the north side, and we'll try to work its way down. By the time it gets there, it'd be about 5:30 mark. Could disrupt some town center placement. Who knows?
I think it could possibly disrupt some town center placement. I'd assume B would be looking for it maybe over here somewhere, because it seems a little bit risky placing it all the way down to the south here, but that may be where he's looking to place it. We see gets enough stone in the bank before that Royal Knight does arrive. B needs to be careful not to lose out on those scouts. The Knight, we do see there, is going to be running around, just going to be diving underneath the TC here. B doesn't react with the villagers into the TC, so no damage onto VortiX's Knight right there. B, and there it is. Second TC going to be dropped down here. Going to be using the gold that's nicely protected by the Kremlin and the TC instead of the one at the back of the base here. I like this move a lot. I think it's super, super smart, but VortiX, 2 Knights now out. Needs to be careful. Doesn't want to dive too much underneath this TC. He's going to be going in for a charge, though. Is going to be finding a... Not going to be finding a villager kill. Huge damage being put onto that Knight right there. Is going to be going down as well. Huge value for B. That is absolutely huge. And he's going to be losing the scout with it as well.
This is why it's so important for the Kremlin to be there. Got to remember, for the Kremlin, we talk about the militia all the time, but they come with technologies. They come with arrow slits. They come with castle watch. They come with castle turret. So those arrows, not only do you not need to garrison, but they hit hard. They hit an extra 3 damage to something like a heavy armored unit like a knight. That makes a big difference. And for French, again, I say this analogy a lot with the French, it's like packing snow to make a snowball to end up getting the massive units that you need to take your enemy down. If you're not packing the snow well, if you're not keeping those knights alive, then you're not going to be able to translate well later.
Exactly. And at the moment, B calls out all 6 militia. Going to be heading towards the base of VortiX here. I think he's going to be trying to delay this TC, maybe even trying to find a villager kill out here. VortiX, he only has the 9 villagers out here. This could be a tight one here for VortiX. He's not playing as the Chinese either, so doesn't have that extra build speed as we typically see. Well, we've seen, you know, in the last game. So VortiX has to pull more villagers here. Now has a total of 13. The militia, I don't think they're going to be getting in here in time to kill a villager.
No, I don't think so either, but it shows how multi-purpose these Kremlin really are. Going to be creating some idle time, though, on that front town center for villagers, and all of those wood villagers have to scamper out just a little bit. Not necessarily losing their lives, but this does stall out VortiX a decent amount.
Yeah, huge idle time right there. We see 6 villagers in the TC, 9 villagers just running about right here. For B, this only cost 120 food. This was totally worth the value right here, and especially if you combine this villager kill down to 2 HP. He's not going to be finding it, but B, he has a knight now out on the field, going to be causing even more idle time right here. VortiX is trying to find raids here with his knights, but the Kremlin in such a good position is going to be denying that one away. B finding some great idle time there on VortiX's economy.
Yeah, I mean, this is the antithesis of what French really wants to do. Right? French wants to raid you, and you're sitting there with your Kremlin militia and your early knights, and you're trying to get some raids, and you get a lot of idle time. VortiX with that second town center up, he's going to be producing villagers, but look at his count. He only has 2 knights right now.
Unfortunately, B did lose out on that knight. Did take out the scout, though. But B now starts to add in some spears. Double barracks has been dropped down, so B really looking to pump out these spears. Only has the 1 stable down, but that is going to be enough for the time being. Has plenty of food still available to him with the deer. And we see the knight coming through once again. Going to be able to find another villager kill. I say another. I think that was the first one of the game, but just so much idle time put onto VortiX right here. With that spearman coming through, denying this archery range. This is so good for B. Delaying archers from VortiX for as long as possible. Really, really good for him.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He has a pretty good spearman count already with 5 spearmen. Those knights, oh my god, B's micro is insane. This is a masterclass from B right now on how to disrupt the French. This is it. The Royal Knight actually gets a charge on one of those spearmen. He's trying to get a counter raid over there, but it's right next to that Kremlin. That castle turret's still going to be firing on that knight. Not real much in the way of damage.
Yeah, VortiX taking a ton of damage right there on both knights. And he's going to be losing one. VortiX loses huge amount of resources right there, and also is going to be taking some damage in the woodline here. Villagers just going to be bringing out their shivs, trying to take down the spears. VortiX, he's going to be losing another knight here if he's not careful. Spearman sitting to the north here, may be able to intercept this knight here. VortiX, as you say, French need to they're a snowball, right? And you don't want to be losing knights like this, which he is going to be losing. Wow.
No, we're not. I mean, for the French, we're not packing snow at this point. It's sunny and 70 degrees outside. That snow's melting, Merlin.
Yeah. I mean, this is great value for B. VortiX, you know, he's playing as the French as well. He should be ahead when it comes to villagers, but he's down by 6, which is a pretty huge amount. Army value also double right now for B. B making use of resources all over the map. We see he's on the deer towards the south of the map. Can always look to go towards the left-hand side here for the boar as well. So has plenty of food still accessible to him.
Yeah, and this is the reward for getting map control, right? What B did, VortiX is so consumed with his own base and raiding from multiple different sides. B actually has the cojones on the south side where that deer pack is. Didn't even put a wooded fortress down. He's like, I don't need it. I'm gonna send the wood elsewhere.
It's a little bit risky, and we can see he is going to be dropping a wooden fortress here on this one. They're going to be keeping this one a little bit more defensive. And he's actually going to be dropping one on this one as well. So now that he's stopping...
Never mind.
I think it makes sense, though, right? Because he's no longer putting on the aggression. He's sort of just fallen back for the time being. He's grabbing himself some upgrades, just looking to mass up a little bit before he goes in again. So now has to invest into that wooden fortress. So before he was looking to use it for production, which he used a lot of, you know, got a lot of value out of. So I think it's smart that he's going for these a little bit delayed.
Yeah, absolutely. And now B pulling that pork once again over to that hunting cabin where that wooden fortress is. Now that boar went down with plus 75, Merlin, what bounty is B at? I'm not sure we checked before the Kremlin went up.
That's a good question. Okay, so he was setting up a pretty easy tier 2 before this. Now is going to be slowly making his way towards tier 3. If we do see an Abbey, not Abbey, the High Trade House later on this game, nice spot for it over here. He could look to get tier 3 pretty easily. That's got to be a crash, right?
What fresh hell is this? What's happening here?
Okay, that's got to be a crash, right? There's no way that was a. Let's have a look at the villager graph real quick. I mean, oh, VortiX was losing some vills. Vills were moving apparently on the right on the northern side. Is that enough to cause a GG from VortiX here? Oh, all right, we're gonna have to check in with the admins, see what they say about this, because to me that looks like a crash, but maybe I'm wrong. I feel like VortiX losing a couple builds towards the north. B's been given the point on the leaderboard, right on the scoreboard right there. I think B's taken the win here.
Okay. Okay, cool. Okay, 3-2 series for B. I'll tell you, this was a knockdown, drag out 5-game series. You can call it whatever you want to call it. It was a roller coaster. We had some ups, we had some downs. You could call it a roller coaster. You can call it a cluster. Whatever you would like to call it. B's moving on, and his reward is he's going to be playing in the semifinals next weekend. He's going to be playing either Beastie or Marine Lord, those two, just because they were top 2 in the seed, waiting in the semifinals. Actually got a day off today.